If you think life is unfair, look at this man. He was born with no arms and no legs, a condition so shocking that the first time his mother saw him, she fainted on the spot and refused to hold him for weeks. He grew up in a world that wasn't built for him, with one agonizing question echoing in the chambers of his young mind. Why did God create me like this? What purpose could there possibly be for a life without limbs? This wasn't just a fleeting thought. It was a constant, haunting shadow that followed him everywhere he went. A silent torment that chipped away at his spirit day by day. The world can be a cruel place for anyone who is different. And for this boy, the cruelty was relentless. Nick Vujicic, the world once cruelly called an alien, a monster, a freak, carried a burden far heavier than his physical limitations. The emotional and psychological pain became so unbearable that he tried to end his life in a bathtub at just 10 years old. Imagine that for a moment. A child, barely a decade into his existence, so consumed by despair that he believed the only escape was to stop existing altogether. This wasn't a decision born from weakness, but from a profound and desperate inability to find a single, tangible reason to keep living in a world that seemed to offer him nothing but rejection and pain. He felt like a mistake, a broken piece in a world of perfect puzzles, and he simply couldn't see a path forward. He saw only a future filled with more of the same loneliness, more of the same struggle, more of the same unanswerable questions. The water in that bathtub represented an end to the suffering, a final surrender to the darkness that had enveloped his young heart. But miracles often start in the darkest, most desolate of places, when all hope seems lost and the will to fight has all but vanished. One day, a single ray of light pierced through Nick's suffocating darkness. His mother, who had once been unable to even look at him, showed him a newspaper article about another severely disabled person who, against all odds, was not just surviving but living a life filled with strength, purpose, and dignity. In that single, transformative moment, a profound realization ignited within Nick's soul, a powerful spark that would eventually grow into an unstoppable fire. He looked at the story of that other person, and a new question replaced the old, haunting one. A question not of despair, but of possibility. If they can live, then why can't I? It was a simple question, yet it held the power to completely reframe his entire existence, shifting his focus from what he lacked to what he could potentially achieve. From that day on, he began to learn everything from scratch, not with hands and feet, but with an indomitable will and what little he had. The world became his training ground, and every simple task was a mountain to be conquered. He used his two tiny, underdeveloped toes on his left foot, which he affectionately called his chicken drumstick, to master the art of typing on a keyboard, painstakingly learning to communicate with the world one character at a time. He figured out how to brush his teeth, how to comb his hair, how to answer the phone, and even how to shave, developing ingenious techniques to overcome the challenges his body presented. He didn't stop at the necessities. He pushed further, defying every limitation. He learned to swim, to fish, to play ball, and even to surf, balancing his torso on the board with a grace that stunned onlookers. He fell hundreds of times, then thousands of times, his body crashing against the ground, the water, and the unforgiving pavement. But with every fall, he learned something new, and every single time, with grit and sheer determination, he always stood back up. At the young age of 17, while most teenagers are consumed with school, friends, and figuring out their immediate future, Nick Vujicic founded his own non-profit organization, Life Without Limits. His mission was simple yet profound: to inspire millions of people around the world, to share his story, and to show them that their circumstances do not have to define their destiny. He was no longer just a boy trying to survive. He was becoming a beacon of hope for others. Just 4 years later, at 21, he achieved what many able-bodied individuals struggle to do. He graduated from Griffith University with a double major, earning 2 bachelor's degrees in accounting and financial planning. Later, he fully embraced his calling and became a world-renowned global speaker. His powerful messages of faith, hope, and unwavering strength reaching every corner of the globe. He has traveled to more than 70 countries, stood before presidents and paupers, and moved countless people to tears with his raw honesty and infectious optimism. Then, on February 10, 2012, the man who once believed he would never be loved, who thought no woman would ever want to hold his hand because he didn't have one, married the love of his life, Kanae Mija. She was an ordinary woman with an extraordinary heart, who saw not his limitations, but the boundless love and strength within him. Their wedding was celebrated globally and was called the wedding of the century, not for its opulence, but for what it represented. It stood as a powerful, living testament to the fact that real love doesn't require physical perfection or worldly standards. It requires only trust, commitment, compassion, and the courage to see the soul beyond the surface. Their union was a defiant and beautiful answer to every doubt Nick had ever had, a proof that a life without limbs could still be a life filled with immeasurable love and joy. Nick once said something that cuts to the very core of his philosophy. Life isn't tiefin, but that is no reason to quit. If you can't have arms, learn to fly with your heart. These words are not just an inspirational quote, they are the creed by which he lives his life. A challenge to every single one of us who has ever felt defeated by circumstances. Life, leçon, we are born in a time of unprecedented privilege, a time where almost everything is within our reach. We have access to information, technology, and opportunities that previous generations could only dream of. Yet, despite this abundance, we have become fragile. Just one failure, one harsh criticism, one closed door is often enough to shatter our resolve. A few mounting debts, a painful breakup, or a single exam gone wrong can feel like the end of the world. A catastrophic event from which we believe we can never recover. We allow these temporary setbacks to become permanent roadblocks, convincing ourselves that it is easier and safer to simply give up. Meanwhile, a man with no hands to hold his loved ones, no feet to walk the earth, no physical means to perform the simple of tasks still finds an infinite number of reasons to embrace life with all his heart. He finds joy in the sunrise, purpose in his work, and love in his family. He has faced more obstacles in a single day than most of us will face in a lifetime. Yet his spirit remains not just intact, but triumphant. He has every reason to be bitter, to be angry, to curse the fate he was given. Instead, he chooses gratitude. He chooses joy. He chooses to live. Nick Vujicic is not different from us in his destiny or in the pain he has felt. Every human being on this planet will face hardship, disappointment, and moments of profound unfairness. He is only different in how he chooses to face that pain. He makes a conscious, daily choice to turn his suffering into strength, to transform his scars into sources of inspiration for others. He chooses to rise when there is nothing left to hold on to, relying not on physical limbs, but on an inner resilience forged in the fires of unimaginable adversity. His power does not come from what he has, but from who he has decided to be, in spite of what he lacks. The young generation today does not lack ambition, talent, or dreams. They dream of changing the world, of achieving greatness, of living lives filled with meaning and purpose, but they often lack the one thing that makes all of those dreams possible: the unwavering courage to get back up every single time life knocks them down. They lack the grit, the fortitude, the spiritual stamina to persevere through the inevitable storms. They see failure as a final judgment rather than a necessary lesson on the path to success. Sometimes, resilience doesn't begin with hands that can grasp or feet that can stand. It doesn't begin with a perfect body or a perfect life. It begins with something much deeper, something invisible yet infinitely more powerful. It begins with a heart that, no matter how many times it is broken, bruised, or battered, absolutely and unequivocally refuses to give up.